Good morning, everyone. What a pleasure and a privilege it is to be here with you this morning, and I'm so happy to see that you were able to join us. Welcome to our first Meaningful Moments Parental or Parents Perspective. And this morning, I would like to speak to you from the topic, What I Know About Me. I thought that this made sense to be our starting point because who knows you better than you? That's right. There is no one in the world that could boast that they know more about you, that they know the things that make you tick, the things that make you inspired, and most of all, what you are made of. And today, I'd like to take an opportunity to focus on that perspective. What do you know about yourself? And I'd like us to focus on 4 points today. First, the worst is behind me. Second, different situation, but same me. Third, the worst taught me the most. And fourth, stay tuned. This is not the end of the story. Again, the worst is behind me. Different situation, same me. The worst taught me the most. And stay tuned. This is not the end of the story. I think you would agree that we find ourselves in a very peculiar time. Many of us didn't plan for this, mentally, physically, nor emotionally. We never foresaw ourselves, our families, our children, our associates in a predicament like the one we are currently experiencing. And sometimes when we are in a situation we're not familiar with, perspective makes the difference with how the circumstance finishes. So first, I'd like to remind you that the worst is behind you. One of the tools that I use to encourage myself on particularly difficult days is to compare this situation with something that I consider the worst day of my life. Often, when I was experiencing difficulties or concerns, my late mother would say to me, "Tricia, we've been through worse, and you made it. You made it look easy. You came through it. And today doesn't even rank in comparison to what you had to face that day." So for perspective, I'd like you to remember that your worst day is already behind you. And even if today or this week, the next week is difficult, you've already surpassed and survived the worst. Meaning you are going to be stellar at whatever is facing you because the worst is already behind you. Keep the perspective that I have already been a winner in so many circumstances. And I have already defeated the worst of days. Second, different situation, but same me. While it is true, you may be experiencing and having been exposed to things you've never seen before. As I stated earlier, that you've never thought of before, or maybe that you've never planned for. But what I do know is true is that same, special, unique, driven, dedicated individual was the same person that has already been so victorious in past situations. This situation may not be familiar, but you know who you are. You come to the table with the knowledge of your strengths. And while you may be in a situation with people who are not aware, don't you ever forget. Remind yourself who you are and of the abilities, the power, and the strength which is in you. This might be a different situation. It may be a different circumstance. It might be a different requirement, but it's the same you. And that you is powerful. That you has already overcome so much. And that you is going to get another win in this circumstance. Next, the worst taught me the most. Many times when we go through difficult days, our normal human reaction is to just forget about it, to put it behind us, to put it in our past, and to never think of it again. We even have difficulty, and we regret when someone else brings it up. But today, I want to remind you that the worst thing you've ever faced probably taught you the most. You're a stronger person today because you survived the worst. Oftentimes with children, they think that the current circumstance that they're facing is absolutely, tremendously the worst ever. And sometimes you're able to remind them, remember when this happened and you were a big boy or you were a big girl. And that perspective helps remind them that they already have some victories in their reputation. Remember what you learned at your worst moment. Remember how you breathed and focused and pushed and got through on the day that seemed to be the worst. And take that knowledge, that inspiration, that strength, and rely on it now. That worst day that you were already victorious in taught you so much. And if nobody else learned anything by that circumstance, you should be confident that you found out that you can stand, that you can take it, and not only can you take it, but you can do it with grace, and you can use it to fight other battles. The worst that you've experienced, and the worst that you survived through, I'm confident it's taught you the most and prepared you for even days that you didn't anticipate, that don't even measure up to what you have already surpassed. Fourth, stay tuned. What's so important about perspective in days like this is that age-old saying, it won't always be like this. Do you remember tough days, wondering why the hours seemed to last longer than 60 seconds or 60 minutes, and why the minute seemed to last longer than 60 seconds? Why it appeared that maybe everything was dragging and moving so slow, and the circumstance seemed to go on forever and ever. And now, You, as a victor, are standing on the other side of it and looking back, and it's just a part of your wonderful story. I want to remind you to take the perspective to stay tuned. This is not the end of the story. There are still great things that will happen in this time. There are still wonderful victories that shall come at your hands. There are still incredible moments that you will create. There are still awesome saves that you'll be responsible for. So when you look at today or tomorrow, if everything's not exactly in place where you want it to be, or maybe everything hasn't happened at the date that you hoped it would, or maybe even it's especially challenging and you wonder just how long this day will last, this situation will last, or this moment will extend. Remember to stay tuned, because this is not how this story is going to end. You already have a victory reputation. Your experience and your ability precedes you. We already know that when faced with something difficult, you, as you always have, find a way to get it done. You are trusted with this circumstance because the worst is behind you. Because it might be a different situation, but it's the same you with the same abilities, same set of experience, and same fighting mentality. Don't forget what the worst has taught you and prepared you for and made you ready to overcome circumstances that most wouldn't know how to deal with and how to approach. You have expertise status, and we are looking to you to stand as a beacon of hope, because you have already survived the worst. So stay tuned. This is not how this circumstance is going to end, how this time is going to end, how this circumstance is going to end. All the days won't feel like this. All the hours won't be like this. You won't have to question how you'll make it, always. Instead, remind yourself of all the experiences that you have previously been faced with, and like a champion have rose above. I'd like to leave you with this quote today, and it's from Thomas Edison. He writes, "Many of life's failures are people who did not realize just how close they were to success when they gave up." It may seem like some things you're facing have been going on for so long. Like you've been shouldering the brunt of the pain, the frustration, the confusion, because sometimes it can be a lot. But I want to remind you that many of the things that later turn out to be diagnosed and defined as failures were truly those that were so close to success, but got a little distracted in their perspective. So today, we want you to readjust your perspective. You are fit to make it. You have been built to survive. You are exactly what is needed for this situation. And because of that, you will get through this. And it'll be another opportunity to share about how pride is built. Pride stands up in the midst of unsure circumstances and uses every part of its ability to make sure everyone involved is successful. Thank you on behalf of everyone you are fighting for. We need your strength now more than ever. And may you be reminded during rough days, long nights, or even circumstances that you are not familiar with, that the worst is already behind you. A different situation, but still the same you. You have learned the most from the most difficult situations you have faced. And stay tuned. Don't you give up or lose your focus, because the best is still yet to come. We're going to turn this perspective of a potential failure, stopping point, giving up point. As Thomas Edison said, we're going to recognize just how close we are to success, and we're going to hold on. Today, my encouragement to you is to stay focused. Don't lose your perspective. You've got this. It has been a pleasure to be with you today, and I look forward to our next occasion to share. Have a wonderful day.